Hello, friends, and thank you so much for joining me. My name is Cynthia, and today we are going to be talking about physical and spiritual health. I'm here with my friend Sheyla Anabel. We've known each other for many years. I actually know her dad. He was a pastor at my very old church when I was a little girl. But we're so excited to have you here, Shay. I want to talk about how you started. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, thank you for having me, Cynthia. It's an honor to be here. Okay, what do you want to know? I'm Argentinian. I moved to the US when I was 13. By trade, I'm a therapist. I'm a psychologist. I have a master's in clinical psychology and another one in health psychology. But right now I'm working from home. I'm a health coach. I have twins that are toddlers.
They are gorgeous, by the way, gorgeous.
Yes, and they drive me crazy. And so lots of self-care here. And then I have a stepson who's 17 and a stepdaughter who's 21. So that's pretty much in a nutshell who I am.
That's awesome. That's really, really good. So you said that you're working a lot from home, and I know that a lot of us, I actually just went out into the field. I'm a social worker too. I know that that's something we have in common. I'm a therapist. And so I went out into the field just now. And let me tell you, after 2 years of being locked at home, like to be out there seeing patients, I don't know if I was scared or if I was like happy to actually be around people. So
yeah, it's weird.
It is. So you're at home. Tell me a little bit about, how your journey started. I know, we've been in the quarantine, how your journey started with your business now. You said you're doing coaching.
Yes, I'm doing health coaching right now, and it's been a crazy story. Obviously, it's God always leading the way and opening doors and just putting desires in my heart. But I've always wanted to. I always knew I was going to help women. Like I always had that idea of creating a community of women that are supporting each other and they're finding the connections they need. In terms of whatever they're going through, because we have so many things that are happening to us, especially after we get married and we start like having children and this and that. And so there's so many layers of our identity that is touched when 2020 hits. The twins are 2 years old and I'm in like the worst shape of my life. Like I had like literally if there was a bottom, I found many, many more layers of it, like under it. So when that happened, I was like, there was a moment that I just like kind of hit rock bottom. And I grew up in a home where like fitness, nutrition, health was always like a topic, right?
Part of the lifestyle, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. My dad, even though he's a pastor now, he actually in Argentina was a doctor and endocrinologist. So I knew from the beginning of time about my hormones. I was taking my, I have hypothyroidism since I was like 17. I've had so many other stuff. So like exercise was a routine my parents have done. Like they go to power walk every day for an hour since the beginning of time. That's their moment as a couple to talk. That's the moment where they exercise. And so like they always encourage us. So and my sister's a nutritionist, she's a dietitian. So I kind of knew, like you kind of have the knowledge, but I was struggling. I was struggling very, very badly with my weight. And I had tried to lose the weight. I had tried to, go back to the gym and between breastfeeding sessions. And I was out of control. I was out of control. And I remember I was crying. I told my husband, like, look, I need help. Like I need actual help. Like I need to go to like a nutritionist. I need to go to a psychologist. Mm-hmm. I was doing therapy, but I felt like maybe the nutritionist had like some tools that maybe like a normal like therapist wouldn't, if they're not specialized, they don't have it because they get trained specifically to deal with people with, eating
mental
disorders.
Health,
yeah. So like I need to go and like seek for help. And obviously that like my lack of self-care also brought a lot of issues in our relationship. So it was just also the point where I was like, I told him, you choose the place. I don't care what it is. I'll do it.
I think that was like a turning point. I think that's good that you you realized that you had the problem and you were able to do something. You were wanting to put like action towards it. Because I think a lot of us sometimes.
It got to a point that it was so bad that it was kind of something also to show like my husband, like I care about this marriage, I care about this family, and I need to take care of myself. Like I'm gonna show you that I care.
Yeah.
And so I told him, like, pick a place, pick a program, and I'm gonna do it. In my head, and it was like, it's so bad when you talk about that. But in my head, I was like, I'm gonna do it. And I'm going to do it well just to prove you wrong. Like, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And then I will prove to you that I'm not the problem.
It's not me. It's the program. It's this thing.
But it's like when you're in a place that is like, I was very angry, and I had a lot of anger inside. I think that it accumulated over the years, and I'm some of that kind of personality. I don't like to have conflict. I don't like to confront people. I want to have fun. I want to make you laugh.
Yeah.
I want to be everything that you need. Right.
Yeah.
So I was kind of, I was eating my emotions, and it was just controlling me. It was a moment where I couldn't, like, I had a health coach that would come and visit me, who he was from my CrossFit gym, and he was just starting his career, and he was like, I'll you could be my first patient. And I was like, okay, sure. And he would come and like talk to me every week, and I would just like cry the whole time. And then he would tell me, okay, let's try to do this. And just thinking about restricting my food would make me cry and have like panic attacks. Like I was like, I can't do this. Like I can't. So when that came, and I actually, like, it was right before the pandemic hit, and my husband picked a place that was very, it's very popular, and it was very restricting. It was a place that like I went in and I literally said, how much is it? How many weeks? Okay. Yeah. And I paid for it, and they gave me everything. Again, I didn't do anything research. They gave me everything, and I'm coming back home crying because I'm looking at stuff.
It's so overwhelming. And it just adds to like the anxiety.
It felt the same way. It felt the same way as IVF. I had all the stuff without the previous research, and I was like, I already paid for it. I'm in it. Like I'm in it. I have everything here. Like I have to do it.
You have to do it. Yeah. So that wasn't the program that you're in now, I'm assuming, right? That's not the same program. So after you started, were you successful in that? Apparently not. You were successful in that one program? Okay.
But diets don't work for a reason, right? Okay. When it comes to, when you have so many restrictions, when you finish, there's a lot of there's a lot of how do you say excesos?
Like
sorry, I'm like bingo, and I'm like, I can say this. Excesos, like when you overdo
excessive, like overdoing it, and
you overdo it. It's like when you're restricting so much, when you let go, you overdo it.
You're like all over the place.
Yeah, and like I tried really hard not to. Like I always, because my dad was saying all the time, since at the beginning of time, he would always tell me, restrictive diets don't work. Lifestyle is the thing. And I was like, I know. But I was like, in my head, I was like, what can I cut out? Because usually, like, whenever you talk to like normal like health coaches or whatever, they're like, okay, cut out sugar. And I'm like, I don't eat sugar.
And carbs.
Okay, cut out alcohol. I don't drink alcohol. Okay, cut out carbs. I don't eat carbs. Like, and so it was like, what do I cut out? Like, and so it was kind of like, I still ate wrong, like I was still overweight. Yeah. And even if I try eating right, like it was like, it's just not coming off. Yeah. Like it felt like it was very like permanent. Right. And so and like whenever you restrict so much, then your body kind of craves the carbs, craves the food. So
I think it's kind of like a mindset, right? So like the diabetic, right? I have family who's diabetic. So when you see you can't eat sugar, what are you going to want to eat at like 11 o'clock at night? You're going to want to eat cookies. So
like basically I knew that most of the work was mindset more than behavior. And like I did the program, and I lost like 50 pounds in a matter of like 2-3 months. It was like very fast.
Wow.
And I was able to keep it off for longer than 6 months, which I thought was going to be like, okay, you know? And then I was like, I'm off the dangerous period of gaining it back. And it wasn't.
Oh yeah.
I did slowly gain it back, you know? And even though I have been living a very healthy lifestyle since then. So it's not only about what you eat or what, like, how you, like, it's not only math, right?
Right.
And there's so many layers and everybody's different and there's so many emotional stuff happening. And like cortisol levels and bad sleep and so many other things that contribute to you like gaining weight or like not being able to lose it. But you know, I'm not an expert on it, but it's just what I've learned from my experience. So when I did that program, I finished it, but I remember like the first day of the program, like the night before, I sat down and I was like, okay, God, we're gonna talk. Because I knew like it was gonna be a hard program.
Yeah.
Like it was like 800 calories a day. I was going to the gym at the time. They told me I couldn't work out. I didn't have enough energy to work out.
Okay.
Because when you're eating 800 calories, that's like less than a toddler. Like
that's like less than half of what you're supposed to be taking.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it was like you're eating the barely minimum to survive and not die, you know?
Pretty much starving yourself.
Yeah, essentially. So I knew, like, honestly, I looked at the stuff and I was like, I'm going to be fasting for 6 weeks. It literally felt like a fast. So I told God, the only way I could possibly do this is if I actually see this process as a way of getting closer to you and as a fast. It's a fasting of 6 weeks and fasting and prayer that I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to eat what I need to survive. I'm going to follow the nutritional plan that they gave me. But I'm going to see this not as a way of losing weight, not as a way of proving my husband wrong, not as a way of feeling better. I'm going to use this as a way of getting closer to you and like hearing your voice through this process. So I'm going to need you to come and help me because you know I don't have the self-control for this. Like, you know, my strength is like not, like I committed,
right?
But for all the wrong reasons. And I asked a psychologist, I know, like when the motivation isn't right, like it's not going to work.
Yeah.
It was a very, we have like what we have intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. It was very extrinsic motivation because it came from the outside. Right. It was, I'm doing this for you to prove you wrong, or I'm doing this for you to show you how much I care for a marriage. But it's not because I want to, because it's something that I'm looking forward to. I wanted to be skinny. Like wanting to, I wanted, but
like we talked about before, skinny doesn't always mean healthy.
yeah. And I wasn't emotionally there. Like I don't think I had at the moment the strength to do it for myself.
Yeah. So after you did the 6 weeks, I guess, of fasting, and you started praying and you started, incorporating the spiritual part, did that kind of have a change in, now you're like not doing physical, but also spiritual wellness together?
Yeah, that's the only thing that got me through the program, to be honest. Like, it's literally the only reason why I went through it, and I finished it, and I came out at the end, and it felt good. I felt good. Obviously, I started feeling more attractive to myself, like, let alone like others. Like, I don't even think about it. I was like, I started looking at myself in the mirror and not crying anymore so much. Like, it really like started helping me see myself in a different light. But at the same time, it really opened my eyes to like a new layer of what self-care means, and self-acceptance, and self-love and value. And so that's when I started approaching food as an addiction. And I looked at it, I was like, because I'm a therapist, right? So I'm like, if I'm looking at food as an addiction, how would I treat it? How would I approach a client that has this problem? So when you approach things like an addiction, at least in my opinion, it changed my mindset to, I'm going to be addicted to this forever, right? Mm-hmm. Just like AAs, it's like, how are you doing this? Do you have a support system? Like, do you understand that this is something that you will have forever, but you need to just learn how to not rely on it to numb whatever is happening inside of you.
Which is what happens a lot of times in our spiritual walk, where whether it's food or whether it's your job or whether it's, something, shopping, I went through that for a while. Like every time I just felt low, I was like, I need to go shopping. Or even just go to the stores, or even just go to the stores. Thank God I moved away from that. But, that's what we're always, and we don't realize that we're trying to fill, right, that emptiness that only God can fill, right? We're trying to fill that void.
Yeah.
So
I started looking at it that way, and I said, okay, like that, like I may not be like this huge sinner, right? Like, and then I think that growing up in the church kind of like brings you a little bit of that, where you feel you're so used to doing the things that you're supposed to do that you don't feel like you need that savior the same way that maybe someone who doesn't know Jesus and comes to Jesus like needs it. And honestly, it was like I felt like growing up and being in the church and never having that experience of like leaving God and then coming back. I think like the people that grow up like that kind of lack maybe sometimes that.
Like, take it for granted almost that you haven't had exposure to that.
Yeah, it's weird because I know that I had a deep relationship with God. Like I know that I was very close to God. I know the importance of it, but I feel like the aspect of maybe feeling like the lowest of the low sinner that really like that is so grateful and thankful for mercy and grace and the fact that Jesus died for me. I think it was very hard to grasp that. Like I know that I would like watch people that will come from like a very broken life to Jesus and see their how in love they were with Jesus and like trying to explain what salvation means to them.
Yeah.
That I would be even like kind of jealous and like, because I could not understand.
Yeah. You couldn't relate. You couldn't relate.
Connect emotionally.
Yeah.
So that moment, it was kind of like my come to Jesus moment, right? Where it's like, wow, like I may not be like this huge sinner, right? That comes with like maybe something that is so strong, like, in the Bible, it's like I broke this commandment like so bad, right?
My
like,
sin is so huge.
Yeah. But I was like faced with the fact that food was an idol. And food was what represented to me the source of pleasure and that I needed. And I needed to, like, I put it in the place where I was like, I need to prove God that he's number one in my life. And I need to sacrifice food for it, which is the most important thing. Even though, and maybe it sounds very extremist, and like sometimes I talk about it on Instagram like that, but I'm like, we say my children are the most important thing. I will die for my children. I will die for my husband. I will die for this. But when you're like, why don't we like, do a nutritional plan? Oh, no. I am not willing to do my food, right?
Right.
So we don't really see food as something that could potentially be the most important thing in our lives, but it is, it's like there, like not for everyone, but at least for me and people that have like issues with food, it's like, it's so important that whenever you say you need to stop eating this, like I can cry and have like a panic attack, and like it's very, and since we're never put into that position where we have to choose between our children's life and eating, we don't really know, right? And obviously, if it's my child, I will like give away my food for them, right? It's being maybe exaggerating, but when you put it in like the perspective of God is like looking at me like, you're sad, but instead of coming to me, you're going to ice cream.
Right.
You're stressed, and instead of coming to me, and he tells you in the Bible, like, lay upon me your anxieties, I will carry them for you. Like you can rest in me. And we're like, I shall rest in this piece of bread, I shall rest in the hummer and the fries. And like, and so, and I feel like we those are like our first like mechanisms to deal with stress, with anxiety, with sadness, with loneliness, with happiness. Like even when we're, instead of saying, thank you, Jesus, we're like, let's celebrate and go eat, right? So it's like, it is so big, and at the same time, it's such a small part of our day. It's not small. It's a simple part of our day that we feel as humans that we should be able to control. Because food doesn't control me, right? Like I'm a human. Like I can think, I can breathe. Food doesn't talk.
Right.
Like food doesn't have the control of my soul. But that simple thing, we never think of actually releasing it to God, because we think we should be able to handle it. And it's embarrassing to say,
absolutely,
I need to pray every day so God will help me not to eat chocolate.
Right. God will help me to control my mouth. And, and that's why in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 19 and 20, it talks about us being the temple of God. Like we should be taking care of our bodies like the temple of God, right? Like we wouldn't put bad sacrifices in the temple of God, because that's not what he wanted. And so, we're sacrificing these things in our mouth that we should not, be eating. So I don't mean to stray away, but I wanted to know, so you started this journey, you found, I don't want to say you found God because you already knew him, but you found that God could be the answer to your not only physical health, but also to your spiritual health. So how did it get you to this ministry now that you're doing, where you're mixing the physical and the spiritual health together?
Yes.
How long did it take you between that program that you had to now this amazing?
Let's see. I finished the program in like maybe May, because I did 2 rounds. I did 6 weeks, and then I had a month off, and then I did another 6 weeks.
So you chose to by your free will fast for another.
Well, the thing is, I had bought like a BOGO type of deal.
Okay.
So I was like, okay.
Did your husband not want to join you?
Oh, no. It was me. I had the problem, right? Okay. No, so I lost 30 pounds on the first round.
Wow.
Of 6 weeks, and then I lost like 20 more on the second round.
Okay.
And I stopped doing it right before it ended because I started taking antidepressants. So I went through whenever this whole society went through the civil rights movements and all of the civil stuff that we were going through in 2020 with racism and all these things. I kind of hit another rock bottom where I was like very obsessed with talking about it. And as a therapist, I knew that was not normal. So I was doing therapy with my psychologist, but at that moment I said, I need to go to a psychiatrist.
Okay.
Because I can't sleep. Like I'm thinking about this over and over again. And it was just like an obsession. Yeah. So I got an appointment with a psychiatrist, and I told them what was going on. And I was like, this is not normal. Like this is definitely affecting my way of life. And that's when we started talking, and we realized that I was deep into a depression, like deep. And it was very hard to ignore for so many reasons. And I feel like women, we have, and not obviously not every woman you're gonna meet, but like when you have children and especially when they're little and they really, really need you, you don't really have the time, or
you push your needs aside to take care of
you
them.
push the needs aside forever, but you never actually have the time to think, how am I doing, right? Unless someone pins you down against the wall and asks directly and really digs to to ask and mean it, you don't really ask that question. And when I went to the psychiatrist, I remember he asked me, he's like, so how are you doing? And I couldn't answer. And
you're
I couldn't answer.
How do I feel?
I'm losing weight. I'm doing this. And he's like, yeah, I know. I hear what you're doing. I want to know how you're feeling. Have you been feeling sad lately? And I just stopped there and I was like, I haven't asked myself how I feel in 3 years since I started IVF. And I just started crying, and I could not stop crying. I was going into a panic mode, panic attack mode, crying, ugly cry. And so he was like, yeah, we're gonna maybe give you some antidepressants. And I was like,
okay.
Okay. So yeah, that was that. And this is the first time I'm taking antidepressants. I feel absolutely no shame on saying it, because
that's awesome.
This is real. Depression is a chemical thing. It is not about feeling blue once in a while.
Right.
It's there's dopamine that is not being released in your brain that actually makes you feel good. There's a disconnect with that.
Right.
So you have no connection with the pleasure element. So you need your body to start generating it. And because it's not generating it by itself, you need to give it the drugs that it needs.
Right.
So if anybody's listening and they're doubting and wondering, I mean, if you're a Christian and you feel like prayer should be the only like tool that you're going to use to get out of the funk, just know that God created us with the ability of, researching and having science and medicine, and he uses different methods to help us. Just like when you break a leg and you need to go to the doctor to put a cast on it,
Right.
when you break something in your mind,
right,
you need to put a cast on it. You need to go to the doctor and get it fixed. So it's not something that is going to make you be less faithful or less Christian if you need like to go to the psychiatrist and to get the drugs. Because that's just another way God is using to help you, and it's not going to be forever, and if you do have something that is like more chronic, like maybe another disorder, like bipolar disorder or something like that, there's no shame on using that. You know what I mean? Like, we are broken sinners. Our world is dying every day. Like, we need to help ourselves, and God is using it. So that's where I went in. I got my drugs, and started using them, and everything started to level up. And that month when I was doing that, I actually had this friend of mine who asked me to do an IGTV, and she was like, I need you to talk about, the stages of change. And I was like, yeah, I love that topic. And so I started talking about it, and then I started sharing my story with it to like give an example to like how we look at, maybe people that are addicts and stuff like that, and like every stage. And then when I finished that talk, she was like, man, this is good. And like a lot of women started reaching out to me, and they were like, oh my gosh, I have never like thought about this. Thank you so much. Like, I could so relate to this. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like I need to do, like, I should maybe share a little more on Instagram. And so I had already like planned that I wanted to be a Beachbody coach because I had done the company before. They have very balanced program.
Beachbody coach?
Beachbody, yeah. So they have very, very good balanced program that includes nutritional programs that are not restrictive. They're actually like to educate you so you can apply it in your real life. They have very good at-home fitness programs, and it was like middle of pandemic, right? We're not going to the gym. And so I was like, if I am gonna, because I wanted to jump into that lifestyle so that I wouldn't gain the weight back. I was like, I want to join the lifestyle, but I want to be a coach so I can have another layer of accountability. Because I knew that doing it for other people apparently seems to be better than doing it for myself. So I was like, I need to show up for people. And I knew I was going to be like I am very infectious, and I really like to like create community.
Very energetic. You love to be around people.
I was like, I knew I was going to join this, and I want people to join it with me. So I was like, okay, I'm going to be a coach. So I signed up, and literally the first day I posted my pictures on how I lost weight. And it just blew up. Like, and I'm telling you, God was like, he knew what he was doing. And like, he created a team so fast. And then I was like, I think it was like a week into it. One day in the morning, I was like there, and I was like, I'm going to try the IGTV thing. I never like did an IGTV. So I put it on, and I was like reading the Bible, and I was reading about the Israelites whenever they were in the desert, like when they come out of Egypt. And the first thing they do when something goes wrong, they start complaining to Moses, and they're like telling Moses, you have brought us out to die in the desert. I would rather go back to Egypt where we have the milk and the honey and the food, meat, right? Yeah. And now here we're starving. And I was like, my mind is blown. I'm reading this, and I'm like, these people would rather be slaves to eat what they want. They not eat what they want and be free in the desert.
Yeah, with God, because God's presence was there.
Yeah, I mean, even like you're removing God from the equation. I'm like, they're choosing slavery because of food over freedom because of food, of the comfort of food. I was like, this is what we do, right? This is our problem. We choose the comfort of food over freedom. And that's how it felt to me. I was like, I am a slave of food. Like, that's my problem. And so I opened the camera, and I'm like, I'm talking about that. And then I'm talking about the fact that they would blame Moses for coming out of Egypt. And I just made the calling to look. The basic simple thing here is that they didn't feel responsible for making the decision of going out of Egypt to be free. They didn't want to be free. They didn't decide to be free. Maybe they wanted it, but they didn't decide to be free.
Yeah.
So they were putting that blame on Moses and making him responsible for something that was good for them, that they said they wanted, but they hadn't decided to do it. So it's like, I was just calling people to say, you need to decide and stop blaming others. And even as a health coach, right? I can't make that decision for you as a health coach. I can't go to your house and press play, or go to your house and cook for you your meals, or like, you know, shut the door of the refrigerator whenever you're trying to eat. You need to make that decision yourself, because that is yours to make. If I make it for you, then whenever things go wrong, you're going to blame me for it.
Right.
And you're
because it's easier. It's easier to blame somebody else, like the Israelites.
So I was like, look, same with faith, right? Same with the walk of faith. We cannot rely on other people's like journeys for our own faith. Maybe in the beginning, we will. In the beginning, we will see them, like it will motivate us to see someone that has this strong faith, right? And they have this belief. Maybe it's a partner, right? They have this very strong relationship with God, and that will motivate us, and we're kind of walking along. But there's a moment where we have to take that and do it ourselves. We have to take ownership of that journey, because that person is not going to be there forever to hold us, right? Like, and then we see a little later when Moses like lifting his arms so they can walk through the water, and like other people come and like help him lift the arm, because he can't do it. Right? So we can't expect someone else to be lifting the arms for us every single time. We need to take ownership. So I share that, and then my Instagram's blowing off. Like people are saying, you need to talk about this. Like nobody talks about food this way. Like you explain the Bible so well, like we need more. So I started doing that. So I have like more than 16 videos, like in Spanish and in English on my Instagram.
But that wasn't part of the program that you were in, right? The Beachbody program. No, you just added the aspect to it.
Yeah, it's just my way of coaching is spiritual. So whenever people do sign up with me for me to be their coach on Beachbody programs, I let them know from the go.
Okay.
My team is called Espiritualmente Fit. So it's like the connection between spirit, mind, and fitness.
Yeah.
You are going to be filled with Jesus every single day. And
just giving you a warning sign.
Yes.
That's
and
awesome.
I tell my working coaches, the people that work with me, that want to work the business, because anybody can work the business. You don't have to be a psychologist or anything like that. And I tell them all the time, I'm like, our main goal, like our vision in our team, our main goal is to have people join us thinking they're coming in for a physical transformation, and then actually finding a spiritual transformation.
Yeah.
That is our goal. So I have women in my team that maybe haven't pressed play in like months, right? And maybe as a perspective of a Beachbody coach, I'm a failure, right? But they tell me, because of this group, I learned how to integrate God in my daily living.
That's awesome.
Because of this group, I wake up every morning and I connect to Jesus first thing in the morning.
That's awesome.
Because of this group, I have learned how to rely on God to give me the strength that I need to do the basic and simple things, just like waking up in the morning a little earlier. So that to me is the win. I'm like, I don't care if you lose pounds or you don't lose pounds.
Yeah.
I want your spirit to be healthy, and then everything else will come out of it. Like the Bible itself tells us, and I was just looking at some of the verses and stuff. There's so many verses in the Bible that talks about like the perfect like woman or something, right?
Right.
Or, like,
we were talking about it, the Proverbs 31 woman.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, there's so many different verses that talk about the beauty, the external beauty. I'm going to share with like maybe one of them. I think this week I shared about that too. So this one, let's say, I'm just going to give you one example because there's so many. 1 Peter 3, verse, let me see, from 2 to, to like, let's say 4. It says, for when they observe your pure godly life before God, it will impact them deeply. Let your true beauty come from your inner personality, not a focus on the external. For lasting beauty comes from a gentle and peaceful spirit, which is precious in God's sight. and it's much more important than the outward adornment or elaborate hair, jewelry, and fine clothes.
Mm-hmm.
So there is talking about like the inner beauty and the gentle and peaceful spirit of God, of God's spirit. So we honestly all the time try to connect our challengers to the source of health, the source of peace, and to focus on internally being healthy, because the external part will come out.
It's going to come.
Like it's going to come out eventually. Like if I am spiritually healthy and emotionally healthy, I don't depend on food. So therefore, at some point, sooner or later, because I'm working out, because I'm doing the things I have to do, I'm going to shed the weight off. But I'm not focused on it. I'm not like super obsessed with it. I'm just obsessed with like fueling my body the best way that I can, so that I can listen to the Holy Spirit the best that I can, so I can like move around the best way that I can, and care for my children the best way. Because I cannot take care of anyone if I'm not okay. Like,
that's right.
That's the bottom line. If you don't self-care, you can't really take care of anybody.
Yeah, and it's kind of like it's you have to have the balance of, yes, I'm doing the work physically, but ultimately that's where that spiritual part comes in, where yes, I'm doing the work, but God is also doing the work, you know? So you can't say, look at how I look because, you know, I lost weight and I did the exercise, but it's like you said, like, even if you don't lose as much pounds as you wanted, you know, that spiritual gain that you're going to get, you know, and like you said in the beginning, you started feeling beautiful. And that's very important too. I mean, the outward appearance is important, but what's even more important is the inside. And like you said, it's going to shine towards the outside.
I think it comes from accepting. I think it comes from accepting
yourself.
Yourself. Yeah. And like, I just accepting that the value doesn't come from the way I look or like the way that maybe someone values me or sees me. It comes from God. And so when I'm thinking, what is my value to God? Do you think God cares? You know, no. I mean, he wants me to be healthy, happy, because health brings happiness. You know what I mean? It's a layer of comfort when you're healthy. That is good. You don't want to be sick, right? But he wants me to understand that my value is in the blood of Jesus, right? And it's not even something I do. You know, it's something that he did. It has nothing to do with what I can achieve or what I can do to lose the weight, or who I can become, or how I look like, or who I can raise, right? It really comes from the Lord. And so kind of, I mean, it's a hard walk, and it's a journey, right? Like we have up and downs. And like I said, I gained the weight back slowly. I had a lot of anxiety. I had my meds changed. It affected my serotonin levels. It affected my appetite. And yeah, I slowly but surely gained the weight back. And right now, I actually like posted like 2 or 3 weeks ago a before and after of myself weighing the same amount.
I did see that. I was going to say that. Right? I was like, you probably weigh the same amount, but it's totally different. It is just different. Exactly. I mean, you look different physically, but
you see it in my face. Like you see it in my face that it's like I'm happy and healthy now, and I was not back then.
You had like this light within you that is just the difference. That was and
it's the Jesus aspect. And like I think that, you know, and like people see me working out every day, and I'm like, I mean, I try to wake up early and do my worship and do my workout in the morning, but the bottom line is like people assume and think that I'm a morning person, but I'm not. Like I'm far away from being a morning person. I'm a night owl. That's my problem. I wake up early, but I also go to sleep very late. So it's not like it's a struggle for me to go to sleep early. So waking up early, it doesn't come natural to me. And so I literally pray to God every night for him to wake me up in the morning. Because I can't do it. And
some days are better than others. Sometimes I just like.
No, definitely. And like, I'm telling you, like there's specific days that God wants to talk to me. And he will make sure I wake up. Like, and I'm not talking about like magic. Like he will like, maybe I turn off the phone like a million times. He will make a baby cry, or he will make my dog like throw up in the carpet. Like there's something, like I'm not even kidding. Like something always happens that he wakes me up. And when I look at the clock, I'm like, it's 4:50 in the morning, or like 5:30 in the morning. And I'm like, I need to stay awake, right? If it's close to 5, I stay awake because I'm like, this is the moment that I'm alert because I had to do something, right? Or like maybe one of my daughters fell from the bed and I had to like run towards them, put them back to bed, and then I have this rush and I'm like, oh, I'm awake. Like If I go back to bed, then I'm not listening to the Holy Spirit. I'm like saying, I'm deciding to go back to bed and wake up later. But I always choose to believe that God woke me up for a reason. And I'm like,
that's awesome.
You know what? I have 10 more extra minutes to talk to God.
Yeah.
And I do. And I have that moment. And I'm like, if I don't have Jesus in the morning, my days are off. Like you will never guess. And I tell my challengers too, the most important thing is Jesus. Don't come and tell me I'm going to work out. Like if you wake up a little later, you're like gonna straight to go work out. I'm like, no, I rather you have Jesus and then work out later. And if you skip the workout that day, that's fine. But you got Jesus, right?
Yeah.
That's the main thing. That's the number one.
Yeah. So how did you think that your business or that your ministry was going to be like this? Like when you went into health coaching, were you like, I'm going to preach to this woman. It's going to be great. Like I'm going to bring people to the feet of the cross. It's going to be awesome. Like that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a ride.
But you know what? You didn't start up there. You had like your downfall, right? And then like through that, right? God sometimes breaks us down so that we can learn from our mistakes and then move up from there. Because like you said in the beginning, or I think it was a side conversation we were having, that sometimes you feel like I've grown up in the church and I don't know any different. Like it's just always been Christianity. And so sometimes, God takes our life kind of like through a little side road to then bring us to an even higher level. So how did you did you know that your journey was going to be like that?
I had no idea. I mean, I knew that I was going to create a community of women. I knew I wanted to do that. I thought it was going to be something physical. I wanted to have like a physical building. I wanted to be able to, I still have those dreams. I still have the projects under my sleeve, but I feel like this is the way that he opened the door, and he was like, you think it's going to be in 5 years from now, but it's going to be now. And then he and I will talk to my coach, and like my business kind of like exploded so fast.
That's awesome.
And she was like, how are you ranking up so fast in the company? And she was like,
let me tell you about Jesus.
Yeah, right now. And she was like, it took me years to get there, and you get it in 2 weeks. And I was like,
that's awesome.
Jesus, right? And so it was like, to me, that's I remember like having that conversation with her,
testimony.
And like my head just clicked. I was like, there's so many layers of the ministry, right? Yeah. I'm ministering up and I'm ministering down.
Yeah.
And this is who I am. Yeah. And I cannot divide this.
Right.
And I asked myself, there's 400,000 Beachbody coaches. That's like what am I bringing to the table is different in my team? Why are women gonna come and like why would they choose me over someone else?
Right.
And like what I can offer is Jesus, and that was my story. And nobody can ever, question your story.
They can't take that away from you. It's yours. Yeah.
Yeah. So whenever we come to a point when I'm talking to a challenger, I'm like, I don't know how to help them, right? And I have many coaches like, I don't know. And I'm like, always refer back to Jesus. Like, if you don't know what to say, don't worry. Take them to Jesus. Take them to the cross. So if they say, I am dealing with this, and that, you're like, I'm going to pray for you. Do you want me to call you and pray for you? Right. Let's pray about that. God has the answer for you. And like, we don't have to come and like try and like fix their life. We just have to point them to the fixer of all things, So it's been like, honestly, It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. And there's nothing more fulfilling than knowing that you're doing exactly what God wants you to do.
Yeah. Has there been women, I'm sure there have been, that like come to you afterwards and are like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Or, that like you've seen change, that, you've brought them to Jesus on top of like seeing their before and after picture, right? Because that's always very impressive.
It's been an amazing journey. I start crying. You know what I mean? I cry on the phone with them. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, because I just feel so humble. Yeah, I feel humble awesome. Because I feel like I am such an imperfect, and it's crazy because I deal with my own self-esteem issues. I deal with my own acceptance and
insecurities.
It's an everyday thing. It's not something like, oh, I know my values in Jesus, and then I automatically feel that way.
Right.
And it's forever, right? It's like it goes in like a roller coaster, right? So when I hear them tell me that I've helped them be closer to Jesus and they have found so many things, they're so grateful. I cry because I'm like, I can't believe that a broken person like me could be used by God.
That God used me, yeah.
I have this book of like of prayer that I do every morning, and that's also something I started doing after I started coaching, where I write. I had never had a prayer book before. I always just prayed, but I was like, I write first like 5 things I'm grateful for or more, and then I write my prayers. And I had never written my prayers before.
I started doing that. I want to say maybe about it. I think when the pandemic started, it is the best thing ever. See, I don't know if you have like prayer ADHD, and when I try to pray, it just kind of goes everywhere. But then when I pray and I write it down, it's like, and then I read it and I'm like, oh my gosh, this sounds like a poem. This is like, this is awesome. I highly recommend.
Like that. Some prayers are like David style, right?
Yes.
Other prayers are more like ecclesiastic style, like, you know, like
it's like, Lord, help me.
There are days where I'm like, I surrender all to you, bye, you know. So like some days I write 5 letters, some days I write like 1 phrase. But it has changed my spiritual life to the point where I'm like, this is more important than reading the Bible. When I wake up in the morning, I'm like, I need to write my prayer, because this is the moment that I'm talking to my God, my friend, the source of everything in my life. So I'm very intentional about being very intentional about like asking God specifically to bring forth the women that need to meet me online and that I need to talk to on Instagram. And so that's why I am fearless about inviting people, and that's why I have so much success in my business.
You have this confidence about you that like
because I know I'm not selling something.
You're not a salesperson. You're not a salesperson. You're like your disciple is what you are.
Yeah,
you know?
Like it's looking for people that need. Like I'm confident the people that talk to me or the people that I talk to, I'm confident that God put them there for a reason, and my mission is to connect them to Jesus, either through my program or without my program. So
that's awesome.
And every day I talk to someone and they say, no, thank you. Like my comeback answer is always, what can I pray for you about? Because I'm not here to just sign you up on my program. I am here to serve you and to pray for you. And if I can pray for you today, that's fine. And if tomorrow you want to join us and just be a part of the community and like study the Bible with us and work out with us and eat healthy, amazing, wonderful, we're going to be here, you know? So I'm fearless because I know there's a bigger mission behind it. And it's such a bigger thing. If I'm doing it for God, how can I say no? How can I be afraid? You know?
That's right. So Sheyla, we can keep talking for like a whole nother hour. It has been so amazing. It's just been blessing. It's awesome. Like we talked about before, you know, being skinny. Well, I'm skinny or I'm thin, but you know, I still want to work out. And then your motivation even to me, right? Because I'm not a morning person. So I'm like, well, if Sheyla can wake up at 4:50, 5 o'clock, I'm going to do it too, darn it. You know? Because you do need to have that time with God. And especially for moms and people who have kids or you have a husband, you know, whether you work outside the home or you're at stay-at-home mom, like you need to have that time before everybody else wakes up. Once they start waking up, mommy, I want breakfast, I want this, you know, and you just start getting so caught up in your day, right? That you need to just, when God wakes you up, like wake up, like don't be hard-headed and go back to sleep, right? Like you need to wake up. So that's definitely been like a message, you know, to me.
Especially people that wake up at 3 a.m, and I'm not saying wake up forever.
I can't make any promises. I'm trying to shoot for 5.
No. Like I do have in my soul though. Sometimes I wake up like at 2:30 and I'm like, why is it 2:30? You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to wake up now, but I always, like something my mom taught me and like I've taken to heart and I teach to my stepdaughter, if you wake up like that, it's because God does want to say something to you. So take that opportunity. What I do is I grab my phone and I open the Bible app. And I started reading the Bible app, and I'm like, what is it that you want to tell me? So I started like scrolling down, and sometimes I read exactly the text that I need to read, and I screenshot it, and I go back to sleep because I know I'm going to forget it. So the next morning, I wake up, and I open the screenshot, and I'm like, that was the answer, right? So don't, or like if you wake up at 2 a.m, start praying. Start praying, or like really connect with God because He's waking you up to talk to you. and then go back to sleep.
That's awesome.
Please go
Yeah.
back to sleep.
You're like, what do you need to tell me? It kind of reminds me of the story of Samuel and Eli, right? Where Samuel was listening to the voice of God, and they were like kind of confused, and he kept waking up. He's like, there's a reason why I'm waking up. Like there's something. And then finally they were like, oh, it's God. Let me, go back to sleep. And then when he calls you, so that's awesome. Like we don't want to stay asleep. We definitely want to do that. So Sheyla, it's been a blessing to have you here. I hope that all the ladies that are listening had the same blessing that I have. I really appreciate it. You are glowing. You look so happy. And definitely, if you guys have a passion in your heart for something, whether it's physical health like Sheyla, you can always incorporate Jesus into it. You should never be ashamed of doing that in your work, in your school, with your kids, with strangers. I always say, like, even if I'm like at Kohl's, I'll open the door for somebody. Like that is a ministry in itself, right?
Yeah.
So I really thank you so much. This probably won't be the last time because like we talked about last time, we have other topics that we can definitely do. So if you guys enjoyed it, definitely give it a thumbs up. Make sure that you comment below and you can show the love to Sheyla. God bless. Take care. And till the next time.